fear through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Chasing the Pennant podcast, another episode here. I am your host, Rob, and tonight I am joined by Biscuit. How's it going, Biscuit?
It's going well, Rob. Thank you for having me, as always.
Always great to have you on. People love hearing your voice, so always good to have you on the show. And I am also joined by Andrew. How's it going, Andrew?
I'm doing very well. Very excited to do another podcast. I always look forward to doing them. It's something fun to do throughout this time, and got to, after done preparing, I started watching some 2009 NLCS highlights. So that was a fun part of the day.
Oh man, the Jimmy Rollins walk-off double in that game that was. Do you ever watch that accompanied by the Fransky and LA call?
Yes, actually, I was watching the ninth inning and the TBS call happened, and then right after I went straight to brought up another YouTube page and definitely brought up the Fransky and LA call, just because it's so much better than nothing against the original call, but just the Fransky and LA call is just a lot better in my opinion.
I mean, I thought the TBS call was so boring and so, I guess, emotionless. And then you get Fransky in LA, and Fransky's, going nuts calling the play. And then you have LA just yelling, yeah, 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 in the background, which he does that for like pretty much every big moment. It's fucking awesome every time he does that. Honestly, they're such a great duo together, Fransky and LA. You can't ask for a better radio combination there.
Absolutely not. I feel like I always find it funny because he's in there always screaming like, yeah, like that, like you were just saying. And then I always think about the '08 World Series call when Harry Kalas is going and then Chris Williams in the background keeping his mouth shut and just like dancing in the background. And it's just funny, like the different color commentators, like their different styles of like being the backup in that call.
Oh man, the Wheeler Shuffle. Who could forget that? All right, well, we've got a few topics on hand here for tonight. And the first one, it's something that's been going on and something that's kind of caught on a little bit amongst the players and the fans as we've been dealing with this lack of actual baseball. We're getting the MLB The Show Players League, which is a great thing. You've got, I believe it's one player from every team, and you've got some guys who are really good. You've got Blake Snell, who's 24-5, which is not surprising because every single video, whatever documentary I've ever seen of him, he's always flashing his big video game setup and all that kind of stuff. So you can tell that he's a gamer. Joey Gallo also up there, 23-6, and then you've got Bo Bichette and Jeff McNeil tied at 21-8. But then at the bottom of the barrel, you've got Boston's Eduardo Rodriguez, who is 2-27. How do you get that bad? You figure out of 29 games, you would accidentally win at least like 5 or something like that. He's 2-27.
Right, especially in a video game, like just with the many like fielding mistakes they have in the game, I've heard and stuff, and it just, like you said, you think you'd accidentally just like steal a win here or there, which I guess that might be the 2 wins.
Where's 2 wins by forfeit or something like that?
Right?
Oh man.
The other part of technical issues.
The Phillies representative in this is Rhys Hoskins, who has a record of 13-16. He got off to kind of a hot start, and he's fallen off a little bit. Memorable part for him was when he was playing against Cole Tucker, and Cole Tucker made a deal that he would name his firstborn kid Rhys if Rhys hit a home run, and Rhys hit a home run on that very pitch, and Cole Tucker, took back the bet that he made as the ball was sailing over the fence. But we're going to be looking forward to seeing Rhys Tucker in a few years or whenever that happens. But and Biscuit, I'll start with you this time. How do you feel about this MLB The Show Players League? Do you think it's a good thing for the players to be doing while we're waiting for actual baseball to be starting? It's a good way, I guess, for the players to kind of show off their non-baseball or like non-game side to the fans.
Oh yeah, it's fun. I think these guys miss the game, and know that some people are really yearning for baseball to return, and they're just, willing to provide some form of entertainment to kind of, I don't know if appease is the right word, but just to kind of bring some levity to the fans. And from what I've watched, I have my own personal thoughts, and I'll get into that in a second. But from what I watched, these players seem like they're really enjoying themselves. They're having fun talking to one another, and it seems like they actually want to do it. It doesn't seem forced, which when it first kind of started, I thought it was going to be just kind of like, like, oh, we're going to do this. This is just kind of some kind of like, I guess, marketing thing is what I thought of at first, but it seems like these guys are actually having fun with it. They get really into it, which is super cool to see. For me personally, I'm just not someone who enjoys watching people stream and play video games. I just rather play the game myself. As we were talking earlier, I'm a big fan of playing the show. I just also like, and I don't know if this is even its intention, it doesn't satisfy my yearning. Like, I'd rather see those guys, on my TV at 7 p.m. after a long day of work with a cold beer in my hand, hanging out with my girlfriend, just watching, my favorite team in the world. Like, it's just not the same, and like, I don't think it's supposed to be, but like, it just doesn't catch me enough to where I'm so captivated, if that makes sense.
So you don't get satisfaction from living vicariously through somebody else's video game success or non-success.
Yes, it's not something that I particularly get that invested in. Like I said, it's fun, but it's just not, it's just not the same, and it's not supposed to be the same. I think I'm just kind of arguing with myself in circles here, but I just, more so than watching them stream and play video games, I'd rather see them out in the field showing that emotion and showing, their skills and everything they dedicate to the game on a nightly basis. I'd rather be watching that. And I know that's not a reality right now, but it's just, not something I go out of my way to watch too much.
It's not a reality right now, but there are various circumstances in which it could be a reality pretty soon. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, Andrew, what are your thoughts on this MLB The Show Players League? Do you like it? Do you think it's a good way for the players to kind of relate to the fans?
Yeah, honestly, I love it. I've tuned in a lot actually, just because, like I mentioned before, I'm not big on movies or TV shows really, so I have tuned into this a lot. And it's just something like they do quick games, only 3 innings at a time. That way they can get multiple games in a night. And I think it's a really good way for players to kind of connect with fans outside of just responding to a couple tweets here and there or whatever. Like, I think the players, like you said, Biscuit, like they really have taken it into account and know kind of like it's helping fans get through everything, and they're taking it and enjoying it. It's not it doesn't seem forced. So like, along with it being streamed, the player is going on and seeing the what fans are asking them. So like, in between the game loading to get to the game, they're answering fans' questions and they're interacting with them. It's not like it's just sitting there in silence and it's like an awkward stream or anything. It's actually fun to like get to hear what Hoskins thinks and different stuff on what his favorite Philadelphia food is and stuff, or where he likes to travel and all that. So I think it's a really cool story, and kind of get to learn a lot more about the players. And even the other day, it was on MLB Network. They were streaming a game, and it was, I believe it was Hader of the Brewers and I don't know really how to say his name, but the guy from the Blue Jays, Bichette or something like that.
Oh, Bo Bichette?
Yeah, Bo Bichette.
So one of the 5 million sons of a former major leaguer that they have on that team.
Yeah. But like, they had those two on, and then I forget who it was at the time, but it was one of the announcers that do MLB Network games, and he was on there. So he was kind of like, they kind of took it as almost a real game, where like they had the normal guy doing the announcing of the game, and then they had the 2 players there, and they were kind of just asking each other questions and answering. So I think it's a cool way, even that, for that, not even being a Phillies player there, but just tuning into that and getting to learn more about like how these players really go about their business and even what they're doing during the quarantine, because we're all in this and in the same boat. So it's just I like it in that sense. It's just a different way to find something different to watch.
Yeah, a lot of times us as fans, we kind of put the goggles on a little bit, and we look at these baseball players, we look at these athletes, and we see them only as athletes. We only see them as guys who are going out there and earning millions of dollars a year to play a game, but we don't see them as basic human beings, just like you and I are. They have interests, they have stuff like that through this Players League that they're doing right now, and through all the interaction with the fans that they're getting from it, we get to know more about these players on a more personal level, or at least a non-baseball level, which is certainly a pretty cool thing. I think that the MLB, I don't know what they can do when the season's in play, but maybe they should try to kind of strive for more of that, to see, for the fans to see these guys not just as athletes, but as, people as well.
Yeah, I would love to see that. Honestly, I think that's an important thing. And again, I think it's all about like really who you choose. And I think that's the big thing. I know they probably got to talk it over, but you obviously know who's going to be the more outgoing player and who's going to take it more into account to interact with people. So I think you're able to choose in that sense who you want to put out there for that. So I think I would be all for doing that because, again, you'd get the right guys. It's not like you're going to pick someone who want to be more outgoing. You're going to pick the guy that's more outgoing and it's going to be funny. And so I'd be all for that.
Yeah, certainly. And another thing that they have, or that they could have, is some of the the trash talk, the rivalries that they have on the field. Say when you have the Phillies going against the Mets or the Phillies going against the Nationals or something like that. When these guys play each other on this Players League here, when you have Rhys Hoskins going up against I'm trying to see who the players are for the other teams, and Juan Soto for the Nationals, and you've got Jeff McNeil, McNeil for the Mets. I mean, that rivalry that they have on the field as players, you can kind of see it carry over when they're playing playing each other in these video games. I mean, it's more on a fun level, but it's still, something to see.
Exactly. And that's something they would need to keep doing. And even outside of it, like Hoskins was able to, before this whole thing started, I don't know if any of you guys saw, but he went out and challenged, it was actually opening day, and he challenged Miguel Rojas of the Marlins to a game, just like it was on the day of opening game. They played it at the same time that would have been first pitch. So like just stuff like that as well, like taking it outside of what the league's forcing you to do. Those two guys knew it would be fun, so they called each other up and they streamed it on Twitch, and they were communicating back and forth, so you got both their takes. And it was kind of cool too, because obviously we made the trade with them for JT, and they got Jorge Alfaro, so they and now they have Corey Dickerson, so they kind of started talking about like different teammate styles too, because they got to play with some of the same guys. So it's a cool interaction.
Yeah, it's certainly really cool to see. And that's what we have to resort to as fans for right now, is watching these guys, living vicariously through them as they play their video games. I'm with you, though, Biscuit. I'm much more into playing the video game myself as opposed to watching these guys. But really, that's all we have for right now. But there are certain circumstances and certain options being mulled around. We talked about a few of them, the Grapefruit League and the Cactus League on a previous show. Now there are different developments in terms of getting back to actual baseball here in the year 2020. And Biscuit, you've got an update for us on that. Why don't you get into that a little bit?
Well, yes, Rob. It appears that over the last couple days, there have been more rumblings that baseball will most likely return in 2020. So thank God for that. There were murmurs starting a couple days ago. I believe there was a Ken Rosenthal tweet. I saw a couple articles today. The first one from CBS Sports talked about some other things that could likely happen given what is going on with the coronavirus that could be implemented with baseball this year. Whether they be, for this year only or not will remain to be seen. However, some of the things that were touched upon, in articles a couple months ago or about a month ago where, universal designated hitter, having, social distancing rules implemented in the clubhouse and dugout where players would sit in the fans, where players would sit in the stadium seats and stuff like that. What I've read today from the CBS article, the universal DH seems more and more likely. There was also talk of pitch clocks, the elimination of instant replay, an automatic strike zone. A lot of those things I think are more to speed up pace of play rather than, to implement social distancing skills, social distancing practicing, which is kind of perplexing given the situation. However, the author did say that some of those rules or changes seem a little more unlikely than others. And then there was the big dropper today, the USA Today article by Bob Nightingale, where he explains that one of the things that is being considered is having an expanded postseason with 3 divisions instead of the traditional 3 in both leagues, so 6 divisions in total. The 3 divisions will find themselves in what it would be called the Eastern Division, and the teams including the Phillies in it would be the Nationals, Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Orioles, Rays, Pirates, Blue Jays, and the New York Mets. That terrifies me. I think all or not all, but a good handful of those teams are better than the Phillies. And the article really didn't specify, if they would only be playing the teams in these, expanded divisions or what the case would be. But I don't like I don't like the Phillies odds in going up with only the Nationals, Yankees, Rays even. Mets are, tough depending on who you're facing on certain nights. You could argue the Red Sox are still pretty competitive. Even the Blue Jays have made moves to upgrade this season. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. Andrew, if you want to chime in and just, how do you see the Phillies playing in a division with all those, star teams?
Yeah, I think, like you said, this division would be very concerning. I think I agree with you 100%. There's a handful that you could put in front of the Phillies, like the Yankees, Nationals, Rays. I think would be the three I'd definitely pick in front of the Phillies. And then, like you said, the Red Sox are, they're not probably what they're going to be or what they were last year. Obviously, they lose bets, but I think they're still not going to be a joke of a team. I think they're still going to be a contender. You could throw them in the mix with the Phillies. And then I think the Blue Jays are still kind of early on their turn, so I wouldn't be as afraid of them really. But so I'd probably pick the Phillies about right behind the Yankees, Nationals. So I'd probably pick them fourth, maybe fifth, depending on. I think the Phillies, Mets, and Red Sox are all kind of even. So depending on how that would battle out, because I do think that if they were to do this, I think they would probably just stick within the division just to limit the travel and just because of the geography stuff. Because I think that would be. The one concern is what I read is I think you said there's no fans, so they're still going to be playing in their parks, so they're going to be traveling back and forth to these stadiums. So I think that would be the one big concern is they still have to travel a lot. So I mean, I'd be for trying it. It'd be no fans like mentioned, but the travel part is what scares me about this going through with it. But in terms of division, I'd pick the Phillies probably fourth.
Yes, and what I've seen, the biggest thing I think, one of the reasons the narrative seems to shift to going back to home stadiums and keeping everyone, somewhat local is that players seemed a little unwilling to isolate themselves from their families for an extended period of time. Notable players, the first one that comes to my head is Zach Wheeler, saying that with, a newborn baby on the way, he wouldn't be comfortable not being there for the birth of his child, being to stay within the region or, on the East Coast, which all these teams somewhat, are geographically, that kind of gives him that leeway to still be around his family. I think that's really what was the big thing in the, higher ups of baseball who are planning this, thrown together season, giving everything going on. Rob, what do you think?
I'm with Andrew in that it definitely makes it tougher for the Phillies than the original layout of the Grapefruit League and the Cactus League. I think in the Grapefruit League, the Phillies division rivals, they would have had the Yankees, but aside from that, I think it was the Pirates, the Blue Jays, and I want to say the Tigers. So it would have been pretty much a cakewalk to second place in that division. I think that this new alignment is certainly a lot tougher. Yankees obviously at the top, Nationals probably still a decent ways ahead of the Phillies, and the Mets. I still, even though the Mets had a better record, I still see the Phillies as being a better overall team than the Mets, but they're still going to be tough. And then the Rays, I see being ahead of the Phillies. I see the Phillies finishing probably around fourth in this projected division here. And one thing I do like about it, though, is even though it's probably unlikely that we'll be able to have fans in the stands this season, just the fact that they're playing in home ballparks, if they do somehow get approved to have fans in the stands at some point, it would make that transition to doing so a lot more seamless as opposed to having it just down in Florida and Arizona where obviously there wouldn't be fans there. It opens the door for the opportunity to have fans, if they're in a pennant race or if they're in the playoffs or something like that. That's one thing that I like, but it certainly would be a lot tougher for the Phillies in this proposed division.
Yeah, as you guys mentioned, obviously there are teams that are better. And, given everything that's going on, it seems that nothing is off the table with everything that's been discussed. And even with an expanded postseason roster, would fourth place be enough for the Phillies to still capture one of those spots? Would, maybe the top three teams in each different division make it to the playoffs? It really kind of just depends on what their plan is. I guess it would be more than three. It would at least probably be 4 or 5 teams from each division, so that might be enough. Last question on this. If it came down to the Phillies being in this tougher division or no baseball until 2021, what would you guys take?
Oh, I'm absolutely going to tougher division. I just want to see baseball. I don't care if the Phillies are the worst team in this division. I would rather see them be last place than no baseball at all. And that's tough because we've dealt with so many bad Phillies teams, and I feel like I'm kind of changing the tune on a previous opinion that I had on a similar question a few shows ago. But at this point, I'm just yearning for something. And I think Philadelphia's thirst for sports just got even worse when they had a really weird NFL draft experience a couple days ago. I think that we just need baseball. And if we have a bad Phillies team, then so be it, because it's at least something that we can tune into every night.
Andrew, what do you think?
I agree with that completely. I would take baseball back. I can only watch so many MLB show games for so long from some of these guys, but
Right.
I just think it's been too long without baseball. And even if the Phillies turn out not to be that good, they were bad. I think with the excitement surrounding this team, we went over the holes that are still surround this roster, but it would still be fun to see Joe Girardi come in. It'd still be an odd season, but just with all the excitement that they did bring in, still Wheeler, Girardi, etc. I mean, I think I would still rather just see that and see if that would at least pan out some way.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was thinking more selfishly at first. Just a little bit about my history and my, when I got into baseball, it was much later in the Phillies, 07 to 11 run. So my taste of Phillies winning and, being the cream of the crop was very brief. And then 2012 and beyond set in. So I'm kind of itching and clamoring to get to that level. But you guys are right. Look, it's one of the not neat, but like just fascinating things about the world we live in right now is that it's, what's going on is bigger than all of us. It's bigger than the individual. And you guys are right. Having baseball return would bring such a sense of normalcy. And it really could be, one of the things that, begins a healing process in this nation with everything that happened. Final thought on this, though, I guess the biggest thing to consider is that even this, we saw a roster or a division mix up before, as Rob mentioned, the cactus and the grapefruit leagues. We saw different alignments before, so I don't think this is anything to consider set in stone as of yet. However, the biggest takeaway is that baseball will most likely happen this year, and that is something we should all be happy about.
Absolutely. 110%.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so one of the things that's not going to happen with this whole realignment is you're not going to see teams changing names. But if there was a team that was going to change their name, the Phillies would change their name to the Philadelphia Borases. And I say that because
I didn't know where you're going with it.
The Phillies now have 7 members of their team represented by Scott Boras. Originally, it was Bryce Harper, it was Jake Arrieta, Rhys Hoskins, Velasquez, Cole Irvin, and Nick Williams. Who gives a fuck about those two, but they still count. And now it's the up-and-coming prospect, Shane's future favorite Philly of all time, Alec Bohm. And does this concern you guys at all? And Andrew, I'll start with you this time. Scott Boras is known for getting the absolute highest possible contract for all of his clients, pretty much. And obviously he has his work cut out with him with guys like Cole Irvin and Nick Williams who don't exactly command a high salary. But Alec Bohm, being the prospect that he is, he's eventually going to be getting lots and lots of money. Does that concern you at all, that he's now being represented by Boras, who pretty much has his way with every single GM throughout all of baseball?
It does concern me a little bit, just because, like you said, we already have a bunch of guys with Boras as the agent, and they're all, the big guys all got good contracts, and Harper and Arrieta, and I know Hoskins still has a little bit. I know he's arbitration eligible in 2021, and then I think eventually a free agent, maybe 2023. But the fact that he's already Bohm's already signing this early before he's even up in the majors, and obviously he's a big top prospect, unlike Cole Irvin was, which I'm still confused how Cole Irvin got Boras, but with Bohm not even being up yet, and he's already going to start probably negotiating stuff, and he's already going to be. I mean, knowing Boras, he's probably got a whole sheet full of notes already on why Alec Bohm should get a big contract already, and I mean, we saw a couple prospects starting to sign kind of early when we saw Scott Kingery sign the deal he had before he even really made his name with the Phillies. So I think with some of these bigger names starting to get these kind of early contracts, I think that's why this kind of happened. And it is concerning to me a little bit because they're going to try to get every extra dime out of the contract. And with how stringent this front office seems to be with giving out the big contracts to a degree and not going over the luxury tax, who knows where this is going to go down the road, especially when you still have to pay a JT still and get his contract figured out. So it's going to be interesting how it plays out. I know he's not up. I know Bohm's not up yet, so he's still going to have a little bit of time to figure everything out. But just because of how early it happened in his career, that's what concerns me the most.
Yeah, that's certainly something that they need to pay attention to. He's under the 6 years, the original 6 years of team control, and I'm not exactly sure when when that ends for him. I want to say it's 2024, but I could be wrong about that. But the good news for the Phillies is that a lot of these guys, Bryce Harper's locked up long term. Hoskins, they'll probably be able to. They got some time to negotiate with him, and then the other guys, Arrieta, Velasquez, Irvin, Williams, not really a part of the long-term future for the Phillies. So in terms of negotiations, they really only have Hoskins and Alec Bohm to worry about in the future. But Biscuit, how do you feel about the Phillies being so heavily represented by Scott Boras? Does that worry you at all?
No, just because, as you mentioned, Arrieta's off the books next year. Nick Williams, Velasquez, Cole Irvin, they're really not a big part of the future. Harper's locked up. Hoskins, I question. I like Rhys Hoskins, but given the year that he just came off of, I don't think the Phillies are, too much in a situation to be offering him a long-term extension at this time. I still think he needs to prove himself a little bit. So with that being said, I don't really know what the, financial leap for signing a player or extending a player like Hoskins would be. It excites me, actually, especially, this marriage between Scott Boras and Alec Bohm. Boras really represents some of the best players in baseball. And yes, he's known for getting that record deal, making the most for himself and his players. But that's what excites me, because there must have been something that drawn him to Bohm. Philly prospects over the last decade have all kind of turned out to be bust, starting with Dominic Brown, Franco, a slew of pitchers that have come through the system that have turned out to be duds. And I think that's part of the reason why, some people are so anti-prospect hugging and wanting to trade away young assets, because you really don't know if they're going to pan out. But this just makes me feel like even more so than ever at this point, Bohm's going to be the real deal. Like, he's going to be a huge major league player with a ton of upside, and he's going to be a star. And the fact that he was, Boras was drawn to him, and they, really connected before Bohm even stepped foot on a major league diamond is fascinating to me. And, even just from what we saw in him in spring training, like, I think this kid will just be able to flat out hit. And this pairing so early in his young major league career that hasn't even started yet is just a good sign for me. So I'm really excited. There are concerns just because you don't know what'll happen in Bohm's walk year. But there's time to kind of, let that storyline fizzle out. We don't know what's going to happen when it's Bohm's turn to tango with free agency. But for right now, just the fact that, such a big baseball name in Scott Boras and, one of our guys, one of, the Phillies prospects who have all been duds for such a long time, it just kind of makes me feel like this guy's really going to be a star, and he's got the biggest guy in baseball to represent him. So I'm excited. I like it.
You mentioned Bohm's walk year, and that makes me think we're going to see a very, very motivated Alec Bohm, at least up until he hits that free agency period after year number 6, because now that he's represented by Scott Boras, if he produces, if he goes all out, if he shows the baseball world that he is a stud within the rest of that 6-year period, we're going to get a really, really good Alec Boehm up until then. And you know what? If he plays well enough, then hopefully that'll justify to John Middleton paying all the money that him and Scott Boras will command once that 6 years is up. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, continue what you were saying. I'll go after.
I didn't really have much else to say.
Well, no, I agree with you. And I think when the time comes, like, obviously we don't know what the financial outlook of the organization is going to look like at that time. Obviously we have Harper locked up, but like, you know, the deal, like, it's a significant deal, and, you know, the years and the amount of money we have committed to Harper, but there is still some financial flexibility. We don't know who's going to be on the books at the time. We need to really, you know, make a push to extend Boehm. So, and I think another thing I want to add too, this organization, I feel like, does take care of their own, in the sense that this is a guy who came up through our system, who we, you know, expect to be the cornerstone third baseman for a period of time. I think the Phillies will make every effort when the time comes to lock him down.
Speaking of Boehm being a cornerstone third baseman, funny story there. I'm playing Road to the Show on MLB The Show, and my guy's a third baseman, and the Phillies actually traded Alec Boehm to make room for me to come up.
Well, now I know the truth. Scott Boras should be representing you, Rob.
I know, right? Oh, man. Yeah, well, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how Scott Boras affects how long Alec Boehm will remain in a Phillies uniform. And speaking of uniforms, we're moving on to the finals in our uniform bracket that we've got going on here. Andrew, take it over.
Yeah, so we're finally down to the championship, and we'll see what team survives here. First off, we have the Oakland Athletics, who come out of the American League here, and their path was they beat the White Sox, they beat the Mariners, they beat the Royals, and then they beat the Rays in the Final Four to get to this final spot. And then the Phillies had a bye the opening round. Then they took on the Dodgers, beat the Dodgers, then they had the Brewers, and then they beat the Nationals / Expos in the Final Four to get to this championship matchup. And we'll see, as March Madness would say, we see what team gets their shining moment right here in the uniform bracket. And we'll start with you, Biscuit. Which uniform is better, the Philadelphia Phillies or the Oakland Athletics?
I'm going to go with the Phillies on this one.
Yes.
And their team that, when we first started, like, this whole bracket and we first embarked on this grand bracket adventure of the best uniform in baseball, you know, I think for a, you know, biased reason, I was always just drawn to the Phillies due to my, you know, sincere and earnest dedication to them. However, there are other teams in the NL that I think I would have went with over the Phillies, but the Phillies are here, and I like them 1,000 times more, their uniforms, more than Athletics uniforms. I'm still not as crazy as the green and yellow. I know one Shane is obsessed with it, but it's really nothing to clamor over. Whereas the Phillies have the powder blues, which I love very, very much. They had the classic red pinstripe, one of the more iconic, you know, uniforms that don pinstripes in baseball. And, you know, just even going further than that, I like the maroon uniforms. I like the cream uniforms. I like, you know, just kind of like everything that the Phillies throw design-wise. I enjoy it, whereas the Athletics, I just don't think they work that well. I just don't think it's as classic as a baseball look.
Did you say that you like the maroon uniforms as in those beautiful Saturday night special jerseys?
Yeah, I don't see. I will admit that I don't like them more than the powder blues, of course, but the maroon uniforms aren't even that bad. I can get behind it.
I am no longer on an island.
You're not. You were never on the island. I have a maroon jersey myself. I fucking love it.
Do you really?
Oh yeah, dude. I look good in maroon. I look better in maroon than I do in the powder blue, but I still rock both because, you know, powder blues are cool too.
Oh, you should pose for a picture with Andrew McCutcheon then.
Who
My
looks
Zoom
better,
background
Biscuit or
for work
McCutcheon?
is my Zoom background for work is the Kutch when he's wearing the maroon and the jersey's not zipped up all the way and he was dancing.
Yeah.
So it's a fun time at work with my Philly shenanigans.
That's
That's
hilarious.
pretty good. That's pretty good.
I think one of the biggest issues though with that maroon uniform is that they wear the same colored top and pants, and that's my biggest issue with it. And I think that's why it goes to be so bad in my opinion. Like I know Rob, you said you put in the picture in the group chat that you bought one of them today, and I was thinking about it, I'm like if you like wear that with like good pants, I think that jersey is a cool jersey. It's just the way the Phillies make it out to be on the field, just wearing maroon on top of maroon. I think that's just not a good look in that sense.
Yeah, it's. I think that's what turns a lot of people away is the full, as you said, maroon on maroon. I think that if they wore it with, white pants, then it would look pretty damn awesome, honestly. I mean, to me, it already does look awesome, but I think in the opinions of other people, it will look pretty awesome.
See,
But,
I don't mind the maroon on maroon. It doesn't bother me too much. When you first said a different color, pants, I was thinking black for some reason, and I wasn't a fan of it. But with white,
maroon
it would
and
look,
black.
well, for some reason, black, like it was just the first color that popped into my head. But obviously, with white pants, it would be a much more classier look. So I agree.
Speaking of black pants, I actually saw, not to get off topic here, but I was watching YouTube baseball highlights last night, and I was going back to like the 1970s where the Chicago White Sox wore black shorts with a white jersey.
Ooh.
They wore shorts.
Shorts? Wow.
Yeah, legit shorts. How do you slide?
That's what I was gonna say. Like I know playing like softball now that we're graduated, like the adult softball league stuff. Like people joke around when they wear shorts. Like I'm not sliding. I'm not going on the dirt. I can't imagine like a close play in an MLB game. Like you're wearing shorts and you're trying to like steal a base and you're going full on speed. You're gonna just cut up your leg like crazy.
Absolutely, man. That's got to be hella painful going in there. Trying to break up a double play ball or something like that.
Yeah, and especially for like the 70s before like they kind of probably started watering down the dirt and everything and making it like how good as it looks now. Like I'm sure that dirt back then was probably even rougher than it looks now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But going back to the bracket real quick. So after that the Phillies do take a early 1-0 lead. But Rob, are you going 2-0 or are you gonna go 1-1?
Absolutely, I'm making it 2-0 because of the
Rob the
sexy ass maroon jerseys. I did say last time that the green throwbacks that the Oakland Athletics have is the sexiest jersey in baseball, and I stand by that. But the Phillies have more depth. They have the maroon jerseys, which I love. They have the maroon pinstripes from the 1980s. They have the baby blues, which are beautiful. And then they've got the current red pinstripes, which I love, and they've got the gray away jerseys, which are, a pretty run-of-the-mill away jersey, but certainly a very nice kind of clean look. So if I was just going based on the best jersey versus the best jersey, I would have to go Athletics. But since I'm going the full depth of the jerseys, I'm going with the Philadelphia Phillies. 2-0. Suck on that, Shane.
So for me, when I was looking at this, because I do like both teams' uniforms really well in this, and I think the Oakland A's or Athletics, their uniform with the ones that kind of brought back the Kelly green look, and that Kelly green they have in that sense with the white bottoms and the belt, it's a great look, and I do love that uniform. But even I think it is one of the best, but just that one going against any Phillies, I think, or not any of the Phillies, but I think going against the Phillies best, whether it's the powder blue or the Phillies cream, I think those two are better than that Oakland green that they wear. I really like the mix of that, and I think the A's, I think they do have a good uniform overall as well. But if I'm going depth or just one jersey by one jersey, I'm going the Phillies powder blue or the cream over that Kelly green A's jersey. And the big thing with me as well is, I mean, I've picked for and against both of these teams throughout this bracket, so it's kind of just all about matchups, like anything else. But it's like whether both teams, it's again all about matchups. And in this sense, the Phillies and A's found the way to survive, and putting these two up against the test for best, I got to give Phillies the slight edge here in this one and make it 3-0 on this on tonight's show, and we'll see what the rest of the group picks on later this week. I think they're going Thursday, so it's going to have to be a clean 4 sweep on the next show to get the A's the championship. But it looks like right now this could be the Phillies' one shining moment in recent history since they've had a playoff drought.
I love it. You guys have good taste. 3-0 Phillies is a thing of beauty. Shane is probably going to bribe all the guys that are on the Thursday night show and get them all to vote for the Athletics. He's probably going to, treat them all or promise them all like a dinner at Morton Steakhouse or something like that, which he already owes 17 of to Bryce Harper and possibly 1 to JT Realmuto. But it'll be interesting to see who he gets pissed off at on Thursday night for picking the Phillies and giving them the win.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the message tomorrow as well, just to rip off on picking the Phillies over the A's. I'm just
you guys are assholes.
His angry messages in the group chat. You all have no taste.
Oh man.
But I don't know if anyone else has anything on the uniforms, but I'll turn it back to you, Rob.
Yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up here shortly, but I do want to get into one last thing, which I did briefly bring up in the group chat. The Red Sox, by and large, escaped major punishment for their, scandal, whatever you want to call it, for sign stealing. So the punishment, they had an advanced scout who doubled as a replay room operator. He'll be suspended for the entire 2020 season. They are also losing, I'm trying to find it here, they're also losing a draft pick, I believe. And then Alex Cora, who's not even with the team anymore, suspended for the 2020 season. So, yeah, they lose a second-round draft pick, and they lose their replay room operator. And then their former manager also gets canned for the whole season. Is that too light? And Biscuit, I'll start with you. Is that too light of a punishment for the Red Sox, or is that fair?
I think it's light. Like, even with the Astros and the fines and penalties that came down on them when this whole, cheating scandal came to a big peak, I thought it was light then. I think it's even more light now. Part of that might be because with everything they have going on globally with the coronavirus and trying to get any type of the season into fruition, maybe that took kind of precedent over this, but it's still light. They cheated. It was proven that they cheated as well. I don't think it was solely one man who was orchestrating an entire cheating scandal. So I think, very similar with the Astros. Those players were involved, and obviously no players were really ever going to be suspended. But, I think, A.J. Hinch and the general manager were kind of just scapegoats for that, for a much bigger scandal. And I think this is the same kind of with this, what was he, Rob? Like he was just kind of, what was his actual job?
His actual job title is an advanced scout, and he doubled as a replay room operator.
Right. If you think that this guy, if you think this guy was the only, gentleman on this, team organization orchestrating a sign stealing scandal where you have to have, for it to work, players participating in it, it's rubbish. But it is what it is. And like I said, given everything going on, it's one of those things that, it's not a big headline compared to, a season not happening or them scrounging together some type of a season, but it's absolutely light. It's ridiculous.
Andrew, how do you feel about it?
So I'm actually going to take a different approach on this. I think this, in a way, and I'm not going to say that Red Sox did absolutely nothing wrong, but I'm going to say that the league couldn't find as much as they thought they were going to find in this, I think they also admitted to it, as I think it was Rob Manfred said, that the majority of everything they were finding was from what Alex Cora previously did with the Astros and all that stuff, and they were found with Cora and Carlos Beltran and all that. I think in that sense they almost, when they were going through this research and trying to investigate everything, and I think this, in another way, this is the reason why it took so much longer than the Astros scandal or Astros punishment to get out that the Red Sox did, is because they couldn't find as much as they were expecting to. So I think they kept digging and digging and digging and couldn't really find what they were looking for. And I'm sure the operator guy, JT Watkins, probably did something. I just don't think it was to the degree the Astros did. And I think that's why you saw this. I think it's more. I think it's a fair punishment, and if not more, just it's a slap on the wrist for the Red Sox. Just because I think the MLB knew they couldn't just walk away from it, giving them nothing. But I think this is, to me, is a sign that they couldn't find what they were really looking for. And I think with the Red Sox, almost you kind of see it in. I know it's not completely apples to apples, but you kind of see it in college sports as well. When they take the initiative of suspending their own program from postseason ban, that kind of lightens the sanctions and stuff. Or if they get rid of coach, it kind of helps in that sense. And with the Red Sox being ahead of the curve, and because of how long the punishments took, with them getting ahead of the curve with Cora already gone, I think you couldn't give them to the degree that the Astros got. And I think it was all kind of playing into that factor. They already got rid of the guy that was in charge. Everyone knew Cora was the main reason behind it, and because of what he did with Houston and whatever he brought to there. I don't think it was to the degree of the Astros. So I think this is a fair punishment for him, and it shows that the MLB couldn't find what they wanted to find in this situation.
You know, you bring up a valid point about the MLB not finding really enough to fully prosecute the Red Sox, I guess. And honestly, chances are they wouldn't have found anything if they didn't have the Astros going ahead and having their whole huge scandal. I think the Astros kind of opened the floodgates for that whole thing there in which the Red Sox were punished. But I do think that the Red Sox, I'm going to agree with Biscuit that they got off a little bit late. I think that maybe the MLB could have done more than just a draft pick and a advanced scout. I think maybe they could have restricted their international signing money, or maybe they could have taken away another draft pick, or, you know, something along those lines, something that kind of would do more to hinder the future growth of the Red Sox as opposed to just having a single solitary second round pick taken away. All right, so you guys got any other thoughts on anything that we brought up, or anything that you want to throw in before we wrap up this show here?
No, I'm good.
Andrew?
No, I just say hopefully one of these plans for baseball does happen and we can start watching it sooner rather than later.
Amen to that.
That would be so awesome if that happened. I think we're all yearning for it so much. Man, that would be pretty much saving the year of 2020. If it is to be saved, it would be to bring baseball back. Anyway, if you're listening to this show, you can find us on Twitter at ANYP Phillies. You can find the Always Next to Your Podcast Network at ANY Podcast. You can find me at radio_Rob. Biscuit, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at BrosifBiscuit.
And Andrew?
AJ_Santangelo.
All right, and you can find our podcast on Google Podcasts. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Stitcher. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a rating, give us a review. We use that to build the show to exactly what you, the listener, want to hear. So that's greatly beneficial to us to have your reviews, so we know that what you're looking for, and we can build the show that you want to hear. And I just want to give a shout out first off to the band responsible for our intro and outro music. They're the Jackdaws. They're an excellent Celtic rock band. You can find them at www.thejackdaws.com. They also have a Patreon account, www.patreon.com/thejackdaws. You can find them on iTunes. You can find them on Spotify, Spreaker. You can find them on SoundCloud. Anywhere you listen to music, they're available. Certainly a very, very good band. We love their music. We love having them produce our intro and outro music. And actually, they're going to make another intro/outro specific to the show, which we're very excited for. But once again, you can find them online at www.thejackdaws.com. Also on pretty much every music streaming service that you can find. And I also want to give a shout out to Just Food. You can reach them by phone at 215-794-FOOD. They have a location that is still open in Buckingham Green, Buckingham, Pennsylvania, that is located off of York Road. They also have a location at Delaware Valley University off of 202 in New Britain. Once again, 215-794-FOOD. They've got a great selection, pretty much anything you want, whether you're a vegetarian or if you have food allergies. They can cater to whatever needs you have. Great options across the board. Great breakfast sandwiches, as Shane mentioned in the last show. I go there when the world is open. I go there for my breakfast sandwiches. Excellent food there. Owner Rob is a great guy. You can definitely check them out. Once again, that's 215-794-FOOD, 215-794-3663. That is Just Food. We thank you for listening to this episode of the Chasing the Pennant podcast, and the other 4 of the show will be back with another show on Thursday night.
Man, I used to be revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jig over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.